Why is it that the most ruthless, shameless, and manipulative people so often rise to the top, while the honest, the hardworking, the well-intentioned struggle in the shadows? You've seen it. I've seen it. It's the corrupt politician who keeps winning elections, the CEO who exploits his workers but still gets praised for innovation, the liar who always seems to land on his feet, while the truthful man suffers the consequences of his honesty. And here's the part that's hardest to accept. It's not an accident. It's not just bad luck. It's how the world works. See, we're told from childhood that success is about fairness, that if you play by the rules, work hard, and act with integrity, good things will come your way. But look around. Does the world actually reward fairness? Or does it reward power? The harsh truth: success is not about who deserves it. It's about who is willing to take it. Now, I'm not saying morality is meaningless, but I'm saying that morality, on its own, does not guarantee success. Power follows a different logic. It rewards those who understand it, seize it, and wield it effectively. And the ones who do this best, more often than not, they're the ones who feel no shame, no hesitation, no guilt. That's why the worst people so often rise to the top. They aren't smarter. They aren't better. They just play the game differently. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this better than most. He saw the world not as a battlefield of good versus evil, but as a struggle of power versus submission. He argued that life itself is driven by the will to power, an instinct far deeper than morality, deeper than logic, a fundamental drive to expand, to dominate, to shape reality in one's own image. Now, think about this. If the world is driven by power, not morality, then who will rise the fastest? Those who hesitate, or those who act without restraint? This is why the worst people so often succeed. They understand the game. They manipulate it, bend it, break it when necessary. They take risks that others are too afraid to take. Meanwhile, the good, those who hesitate, those who question themselves, those who expect fairness, fall behind. Not because they aren't capable, not because they don't deserve success, but because they fail to see the world as it truly is. And that's what I want you to do today. I want you to see clearly, to strip away illusions and face the reality of power head-on. Because here's the truth. If you don't learn how power works, someone else will use it against you. The question is, will you take control of your own fate, or will you let the world decide it for you? Now, let's begin. Now, let's strip away every illusion. Forget what you were told about fairness, about virtue leading to success. Those ideas, they comfort the powerless. They are the stories told to keep the herd obedient. But the truth? The world is not ruled by fairness. It is ruled by power. And at the core of power lies one fundamental force: the will to power. Friedrich Nietzsche saw the world differently. He was not interested in morality as people usually understand it. He did not ask, what is right or what is wrong? He asked something much deeper. What drives all life? And his answer? The will to power. Every living thing, every human, every animal, every force of nature moves according to one basic instinct: to expand, to dominate, to impose its will upon the world. Look at nature. The strongest lion takes control of the pride. The tallest tree stretches its branches to steal the sunlight from those below it. The most aggressive nations in history have expanded their empires at the expense of the weak. Power is not given. Power is not earned through virtue. Power is taken, and those who hesitate, they are crushed beneath those who do not. Ask yourself this: who wins in this world? Is it the one who waits for recognition, hoping that their hard work will be noticed? Or is it the one who demands recognition, seizes opportunity, and does not wait for permission? Power has always belonged to those who act, to those who do not hesitate. And hesitation is always rooted in the same thing: moral weakness. Now, listen carefully. I am not saying morality itself is weakness. I am saying that moral hesitation is weakness, because the ruthless, the ones who rise to power, do not hesitate. When they see an opportunity, they take it. When they need to lie, they lie. When they need to manipulate, they manipulate. and they do it without guilt. The world doesn't punish them for it. It rewards them. Meanwhile, the good, the ones who hesitate, who stop to consider if something is right before acting, they are outmaneuvered before they even begin. This is why history is written by conquerors, not philosophers. Now, you may ask, but isn't it wrong to lie, to manipulate, to be ruthless? Maybe, but does that stop those who do it? No. And because they are willing to do what others won't, they rise. Consider this: the corrupt politician who never apologizes. Even when caught, they double down, attack their critics, and manipulate the narrative until the truth itself bends in their favor. And what happens? The public forgets. They remain in power. The ruthless CEO who exploits workers. While others play by ethical rules, they cut corners, crush competitors, and use every advantage. And what happens? They dominate the market. The authoritarian ruler who seizes control. They eliminate opposition, silence dissent, and create their own reality. And what happens? They rule for decades. Why? Because they understand a fundamental truth. Power rewards those who take it, not those who wait for it to be given. Now, you may wonder, don't these people feel guilt? Don't they question their own actions? No, because they justify everything. To them, manipulation is not wrong, it is strategy. Lying is not immoral, it is a tool. Exploiting others is not cruelty, it is simply how the game is played. They do not see themselves as villains. In their own minds, they're simply doing what must be done. And because they have no shame, no hesitation, no guilt, they act faster, more aggressively, and with greater confidence than those who do. And confidence, my friend, is one of the greatest weapons of all. Look at history. Look at the present. Everywhere you turn, you will see proof of this truth. Politicians caught in corruption scandals. Do they resign? No. They deny, distract, and reframe the issue until the public moves on. And they remain in power. Business leaders who built empires on exploitation. Do they apologize? No. They donate to charity for good PR, rebrand their image, and continue playing the game at a level others cannot. Dictators who seize control of nations. Do they ask for permission? No. They take power by force, then justify their rule as necessary for stability. And the world lets them. Because the masses, they obey strength. Now, what does this mean for you? Does it mean you must become ruthless? Must you abandon morality entirely? No, but it does mean this. If you refuse to understand power, you will always be under the control of those who do. If you keep waiting for the world to recognize your virtue, you will be waiting forever. Power rewards action. It does not care for fairness. And so, you must ask yourself, do you want to be ruled by those who feel no hesitation? Or will you take control of your own fate? This is the truth Nietzsche saw, and it is a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. But you're not most people, are you? Now, let's go deeper, because power is not just about strength. It is about controlling perception, and those who master it rule the world. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Why do good people struggle? Why do those who play fair so often lose? Is it because life is unfair? Yes, but that's only part of the answer. The deeper truth, the truth most refuse to see, is this. Good people struggle because they have been conditioned to struggle. Since childhood, you were taught to be kind, humble, and self-sacrificing. You were told that fairness leads to success, that if you follow the rules, life will reward you. But tell me, has it? Have you ever seen ruthless, power-hungry people rise while good, honest people are left behind? Of course you have. And Nietzsche understood why. He called it the battle between master morality and slave morality. Nietzsche did not see morality the way most people do. He didn't divide the world into good and evil. He divided it into masters and slaves. The powerful, the ones who shape history, live by master morality. To them, what is good is simple. Strength is good. Ambition is good. Self-creation is good. Dominance is good. Masters do not ask for permission. They do not wait for approval. They impose their will upon the world and call it justice. Alexander the Great did not ask, "Is it fair for me to conquer Persia?" He took it. Steve Jobs did not ask, "Is it fair for me to control the tech industry?" He dominated it. The powerful do not live by rules set by others. They create their own rules. Now, what about everyone else? The masses? They live by slave morality. Self-sacrifice is good. Submission is good. The weak do not take. They wait to be given. They do not impose. They obey. And what do they call those who refuse to submit? Evil. Slave morality teaches people to fear power, to see ambition as arrogance, dominance as oppression, and ruthlessness as wickedness. Why? Because the weak cannot rise, so they call it virtuous to stay low. They cannot take, so they call it virtuous to give. They cannot impose their will, so they call it virtuous to obey. Slave morality is a morality of survival. It is not designed to help you rise. It is designed to keep you from rising. Now, let's be clear. This does not mean that kindness, humility, or fairness are bad. But here is the truth. The world does not reward passive goodness. It rewards those who seize control. If you are waiting for fairness, you will wait forever. If you are waiting for someone to notice your worth, you will be ignored. If you are waiting for permission, you will be ruled. The powerful, the ones who embrace master morality, understand this. They do not wait. They do not ask. They take. And those who cling to slave morality, they are left behind, wondering why life is so unfair. Now, I want you to ask yourself, who benefits from telling people that being weak is virtuous? Who benefits from telling people to be obedient, humble, and submissive? The powerful do. Society has been built to keep you in line. Schools do not teach power. They teach obedience. Religion does not teach self-overcoming. It teaches submission. Governments do not encourage strength. They encourage compliance. You have been told your whole life that virtue means following the rules. But whose rules? Not yours. The rules of those already in power. Because if they can convince you to be passive, to be humble, to be obedient, then you will never challenge them. You will never rise. You will remain in your place, believing that suffering is noble, that struggle is righteous, and that someday, somehow, you will be rewarded. But Nietzsche would laugh at that, because there is no reward for submission, only servitude. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Are you saying I should become ruthless? Should I abandon all morality and seek only power? No, that is not the point. The point is that if you do not shape reality, someone else will shape it for you. You do not have to become evil, but you do have to become strong. Strength does not mean cruelty. It means asserting yourself. Ambition does not mean corruption. It means refusing to be small. Power does not mean oppression. It means shaping your own fate. If you do not rise, someone else will. If you do not take control, someone else will control you. That is the choice. To live by master morality, where you shape the world, or to live by slave morality, where you are shaped by it. Now, I leave you with a question. A simple question, but one that will define the rest of your life. Will you be the master of your destiny? Or will you continue living by rules that were never meant to serve you? Because those who wait, obey, and submit will always serve those who don't. What if I told you that truth does not exist? Not in the way you think it does. Not as some fixed, objective force that stands above power, untouchable and pure. No, truth is not something that simply is. Truth is something that is created. And who creates it? The powerful. This is what Nietzsche understood. That reality, as you know it, is not an impartial reflection of facts. It is a narrative, a perception, a carefully crafted illusion built by those who understand the game. Why do the worst people succeed? Because they do not search for truth. They define it. And those who define truth define reality itself. Look around you. Who controls the media? The education system? The flow of information? It is not the best people. It is not the most honest people. It is the people who understand that perception matters more than reality. Because if you control how people see the world, you control the world itself. Think about it. A corrupt leader does not say, "I am corrupt." No, they say, "I am protecting order." A CEO who exploits his workers does not say, "I am greedy." No, he says, "I am creating jobs." A manipulative person who thrives on deception does not say, "I am deceiving you." No, they play the victim, twist the story, make you feel as if you're the villain. And here is the frightening part. People believe it, not because it is true, but because they want to believe it. And that is the secret. People do not seek the truth. They seek the version of reality that makes them comfortable. And the powerful exploit this weakness with precision. They know that the masses do not follow truth. They follow certainty. And so they manufacture certainty, even when it is built on a lie. They control narratives through media, propaganda, and institutions. A government silences opposition and calls it protecting democracy. A billionaire hoards wealth, but funds charities to appear benevolent. A manipulative leader creates enemies to justify their rule. They reframe their actions. Corruption becomes progress. Oppression becomes order. Do you think history is a record of truth? No. History is written by the victors. And the victors do not write history with honesty. They write it with strategy. Every oppressive regime in history has justified itself. Every corrupt ruler has rewritten the narrative to appear noble. Every tyrant has convinced the masses that their rule is necessary. Because power does not need to be right. Power only needs to be believed. Let's take a simple example. Imagine two people. The first is an honest man. He works hard, tells the truth, and follows the rules. The second is a cunning man. He bends the truth, manipulates perception, and always controls how people see him. Now tell me, who rises higher? Who wins the promotion? Who gains influence? Who secures power? It is not the one who is honest. It is the one who understands the illusion of truth. Because the world does not reward facts. The world rewards the best storytellers. Now, let's be clear. This is not a call to deception. This is a call to awareness. Because if you do not see this truth, if you still believe that reality is fair, that people rise based on honesty alone, you'll be devoured by those who do understand. The powerful do not wait for truth to serve them. They shape truth to fit their will. And if you do not master perception, if you do not learn how to command your own narrative, then someone else will write it for you. And you may not like the story they tell. There is a force, an invisible force, that shapes the world far more than logic, morality, or reason. It is not intelligence that rules. It is not goodness. It is not even strength. It is fear. Fear controls people more than truth ever could. It is a tool, a weapon, a silent chain that binds the minds of the weak and allows the ruthless to rule without resistance. And the worst people, the ones who rise to the top without shame, without conscience, understand this better than anyone. Because power is not simply about having control. It is about making sure no one dares to take it from you. And the easiest way to do that? Fear. Ask yourself this. Why do people obey authority even when it is corrupt? Why do citizens accept tyranny even when they outnumber the tyrant? Why do employees remain silent while their bosses exploit them? Why do people follow even when they know they are being led into ruin? Because of fear. Not fear of immediate violence, not always, but fear of consequences. Fear of being cast out, punished, shamed, or left alone. The worst people rise because they know how to manufacture fear in the minds of others. And once fear has been planted, it does not need to be constantly enforced. It grows on its own. It spreads through whispers, through rumors, through silent looks exchanged between those two afraid to speak. They do not simply rule. They ensure that no one dares to challenge them. How? 1. They create enemies, real or fake, to justify their actions. A government tightens its grip, not because it is oppressive, but because there are threats to national security. A corporation crushes competition, not out of greed, but to protect innovation. A leader silences dissent, not because they fear criticism, but because they must defend stability. When people are afraid of an external enemy, they cling to their oppressor, believing that submission will keep them safe. And so the cycle continues. 2. They make others afraid to challenge them. A mafia boss does not merely eliminate a rival. He makes an example of them. A dictator does not simply imprison one journalist. He ensures that the entire population watches. A toxic leader in any environment does not just punish one dissenter. He makes sure that everyone else sees the consequences of rebellion. Because fear does not need to touch everyone directly. It only needs to touch one person loudly enough for everyone else to hear. And the rest? They fall in line. 3. They use uncertainty to keep people in line. Do you want to know the real genius of fear? It does not need to be absolute. It just needs to be uncertain. If people know they will be punished for rebellion, some will still rebel. But if they suspect that punishment might come, if they're uncertain of the consequences but know the risk exists, they will police themselves. They will hesitate. They will second-guess. They will become their own jailers. And that is how the worst people maintain power without ever needing to lift a finger. History is filled with oppressive systems that lasted not because they were strong, but because people were afraid to resist. Totalitarian regimes do not just silence critics. They make people too scared to speak. Religious dogmas do not just dictate morality. They make people afraid to question. Cult leaders do not just demand loyalty. They make leaving seem more terrifying than staying. And so the powerful remain in control, not because they deserve it, not because they're the best, but because they understand the true nature of power. That power is not just about what you do. It is about what you make others afraid to do. So here's the truth, the brutal truth. If you do not understand fear, you'll be ruled by it. If you do not project confidence, you will be dominated by those who do. If you do not learn to stand firm, you will forever bow to those who use fear as their weapon. You do not have to be ruthless. You do not have to be evil, but you must be strong. Because if you do not master fear, someone else will master it for you, and they will use it to rule over you. Look around you. Look at the world, at history, at society itself. You will see a pattern, a truth so unsettling, most people refuse to face it. The majority of people do not truly seek freedom. They seek comfort. They seek safety. They seek to be led. And this is why the worst people rise to power. Not because they are strong, but because the majority is weak. You are not born submissive. No child is naturally obedient. No child instinctively accepts authority without question. Obedience is taught. It is drilled into you from the moment you can speak. 1. Society conditions you to obey from childhood. Think about how most people are raised. You're not taught to challenge. You're taught to comply. You're not encouraged to question authority. You are punished for it. You are not rewarded for thinking differently. You are corrected, disciplined, shamed into conformity. And this process is not accidental. It is the foundation of every system of control. Because those in power do not need to oppress the strong. They need only to raise the weak. And so, from childhood, you're conditioned to bow before authority. 2. Schools do not teach power. They teach submission. Ask yourself, what is the purpose of education? Is it to create leaders? Or is it to create workers? Is it to cultivate free thinkers? Or is it to produce people who follow instructions without question? Think about the structure of traditional schooling. Follow the rules. Do what you're told. Memorize what we give you. Don't challenge the teacher. And if you obey, you are rewarded. If you question, you are punished. Society does not train you to take power. It trains you to accept your place. 3. Religion often promotes obedience over independence. Now, let us be honest about something most people will never say out loud. For centuries, religious institutions have been some of the greatest tools of control. Not because they promote morality, but because they promote submission. Obey the rules. Do not question authority. Accept suffering as your fate. Your reward will come later. How convenient. The powerful rule, while the masses are told to endure. The strong take, while the weak are told to wait. The rulers oppress, while the people are told that rebellion is a sin. And this is why the majority never rise. Not because they lack strength, but because they've been taught to fear using it. Now, here is the brutal reality. The worst people rise not because they are invincible, but because most people refuse to fight back. They do not conquer by force alone. They conquer through passivity. through inaction, through a population so deeply conditioned to accept their chains that they never even think of breaking them. This is why oppressive systems last, because the majority would rather be ruled than risk rebellion, because they have been taught that submission is easier than struggle, because they have been trained to obey. Think of every empire, every dictatorship, every corrupt system that has endured throughout history. Did they rule because they were too strong to be overthrown? Or did they rule because the people allowed them to? The pharaohs of Egypt sat on golden thrones while millions of slaves built their pyramids. The Roman emperors indulged in endless luxury while the masses cheered for their own oppression in the Colosseum. Dictators across history have committed atrocities not because they were unbeatable, but because the people feared fighting back more than they feared oppression itself. This is the truth. The worst people do not rise alone. They rise because the masses let them. So now, the question is simple. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to live as most people do, blindly accepting the role given to you? Or will you break free? Will you unlearn the weakness that has been planted in you since childhood? Because if you do not, then you will always be ruled by a boss who exploits you, by a government that deceives you, by leaders who do not care about you, by those who understand power better than you do. You do not have to be ruthless. You do not have to be cruel, but you must stop being weak. Because if you do not take control of your own life, someone else will. Now let's talk about how to use power without becoming evil. Power. It is one of the most feared words in human history. People talk about it in whispers, as if it were some forbidden force, an evil temptation that corrupts all who touch it. And yet, look at the world. Who holds power? Who shapes the rules, dictates the future, decides what is right and what is wrong? Not the meek, not the hesitant, not the ones who avoid power out of fear of becoming corrupt. No, power belongs to those who understand it, embrace it, and are willing to wield it. I will tell you something most people will never admit. Power is always taken, never given, never granted to the most deserving. It goes to those who reach for it without hesitation. And if you do not take it, someone else will. And that someone may not have your sense of morality. They may not care about fairness. They may not hesitate to crush others to serve their own selfish ambitions. History proves this time and time again. The people who avoid power out of fear of corruption create a vacuum. And that vacuum is always filled by the ruthless, the deceptive, the shameless. The worst people rise because the best people hesitate. They hesitate because they fear power. They hesitate because they equate ambition with evil. But here is the truth. Power itself is not evil. It is a force, a weapon, a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for creation or destruction, to build or to destroy, to lead or to oppress. The question is not whether you should seek power. The question is how you will use it. Let me be clear. Embracing power does not mean abandoning your principles. It does not mean lying, cheating, or stepping on others just because you can. That is the path of the weak-minded. Those who lack the intelligence to wield power without being consumed by it. Real strength comes from mastering power while keeping your soul intact. But how do you do this? How do you rise without becoming the very thing you despise? How do you take control without losing yourself? 1. Master power so you're not a victim of it. If you refuse to understand power, you will always be at the mercy of those who do. This is why so many good people are crushed, manipulated, or controlled. They believe that by rejecting power, they can remain pure. But what they fail to see is that power still affects them, whether they seek it or not. A person who refuses to learn self-defense is still vulnerable to violence. A person who ignores the rules of the game is still forced to play by them. A person who does not understand influence is still influenced by those who do. Ignorance is not innocence. It is a weakness others will exploit. So the first step is not to fear power, but to understand it. Study it. Analyze how it works in people, in business, in politics, in history. Learn how influence shapes perception, how leadership bends reality. If you do not, you will always be at the mercy of those who do. 2. Control perception without losing yourself. The powerful do not just rule through force. They rule through perception, through image, through carefully crafted illusions. And yet, most people think that if they're simply good, others will see their worth. But the world does not work that way. Your goodness means nothing if no one perceives it. Your intelligence is wasted if no one recognizes it. You must learn to shape how others see you. This does not mean deception. It means understanding that reality is often dictated by perception. If you appear weak, you will be treated as weak. If you appear strong, people will believe you are strong, even before you prove it. The greatest leaders in history knew this. They cultivated their image with precision. They knew that people follow confidence, not uncertainty. That people trust those who seem powerful, not those who beg to be understood. So if you want power, you must learn to control how others see you, not through lies, but through strategic truth. 3. Use ambition, but maintain a moral foundation. The final step, the hardest step, is to walk the line between ambition and integrity. Many fail here. They either become too ruthless, losing all sense of morality, or they become too hesitant, letting others take advantage of their kindness. You must find balance. You must want power, but not at the cost of your soul. Because power is intoxicating. It will test you. It will tempt you. You will see how easily people can be manipulated, how effortlessly you can take advantage of their fears, their desires, their weaknesses. And that is the moment of truth. That is where the weak succumb, and the strong define who they truly are. You do not have to abandon your morality to be powerful, but you must redefine morality in a way that serves your strength, not your weakness. Morality should not be a chain that holds you down. It should be a weapon that guides your power, a force that strengthens you, not one that makes you easy to exploit. Now, let me ask you this. Who are the best leaders? Are they the ones who reject power? Who sit back and hope that fairness will win in the end? No, the best leaders do not reject power. They understand it. They master it. They wield it with precision and wisdom. They do not let their morality make them weak. But they also do not let ambition turn them into tyrants. They balance the two, because true power is not just about control. It is about creation. The creation of ideas. The creation of movements. The creation of a reality shaped by your will. So now, the choice is yours. You have seen the truth. You now understand why the worst people rise, why the best people hesitate, why power rewards those who dare to take it. Will you continue to fear power, or will you learn to wield it? Will you allow yourself to be ruled, or will you step forward and take control of your own destiny? Because power is not evil. It is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It is simply a tool, a weapon, a force, and in the hands of the right person, it can shape the world. So here we are, at the end of this journey. But tell me, has this really been a journey? Or has it simply been a revelation? Because the truths I have laid before you are never hidden. They were always there, waiting to be seen. The world has always belonged to those who seize it. And those who hesitate, they are ruled. They are manipulated. They are left behind. And so, now, we return to the ultimate question. Not, why do the worst people succeed? For you already know the answer. No, the real question is this. What will you do with this knowledge? You have a choice. To rise or to remain ruled. To act or to be acted upon. To understand power or to be crushed by it. If you want to win. If you want to take control of your own life. If you want to ensure that you are never at the mercy of those who manipulate, exploit, and dominate, then you must do 3 things. Understand power deeply. Stop fearing it. Stop avoiding it. Study it. Learn how influence works, how perception shapes reality, how control is taken. Stop assuming the world is fair. The world is not fair. It never was and it never will be. Stop waiting for justice to save you. Take action. Take control of your own destiny. No one will give you power. No one will hand you success. You must seize it. You must step forward, claim it, impose your will upon reality instead of letting it shape you. Because if you don't, if you hesitate, if you shrink away from power because you fear corruption, then understand this. You are leaving the world in the hands of those who have no such hesitation. And if that happens, do not be surprised when the worst continue to rule. Do not be surprised when liars rise, when the ruthless dominate, when the manipulators shape the future. Because you let them, because you refused to rise, because you were too afraid to take what was yours. But you still have a choice. And now, there is no excuse. The world is ruled by those who take it. So take it. If you made it this far, write in the comment below, "I'm ready to take and make use of power." Like this video, share it widely, and make sure this message reaches those who need to hear it. Because the truth is powerful, but only if it's spread. The world belongs to those who take it. Now, go take it.